Hey piano people, in today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you to 10x your piano memory, guaranteed. Memory is always active when you're playing the piano, even if your goal isn't to memorize, because you have to be able to remember what you do at the piano from day to day. So stay tuned for the whole video because this one is going to be a little bit different than the other videos that I've done on memory. 10xing of your piano memory is going to happen in 4 parts, and each of those parts builds on each other. And at the end, I'm going to share a bonus tip with you that you won't want to miss. Hey piano people, I'm Ashley. Welcome to Ashley Young Music Studio, where I'm all about helping you learn to practice smarter, not harder. Let's dive in. So I'm going to give you each type of memory, and then I'm going to give you the best way to practice for that type of memory so that you truly can 10x it. So the first type of piano memory we're going to talk about is the most common, but there's also a lot of misconceptions and mistakes that go along with this type of memory, so make sure you don't skip it. The first one is muscle memory. And we're going to look at Schumann's Wild Rider in order to illustrate these points. This is what it sounds like. Now, the good news is muscle memory usually is something that naturally develops over time. However, if you want to jumpstart it, you're going to really focus on how things feel when you play them. Let's take, for example, this left hand. I want to make sure that as I'm playing through this left hand in these first 4 measures, that I'm not just thinking about individual notes. So I might look at this left hand and I might say, okay, I'm playing 1, 3, 5, and I'm going to come back to this position a lot. In fact, I do it in the first measure. I do it in the second measure. I do it again in the third measure, although it's down lower, and then again in the 4th measure. Okay. So I feel how this chord feels. It's 1, 3, and 5. It's a root position chord, and it feels like my hand was meant to be here, right? It's not awkward. Now, the other thing that I'm doing a lot of is this change from this chord, and I'm going to play 5 and 2, but I'm going to move my thumb up 1. So how does it feel to switch between those 2 chords? And so I'm going to follow my fingering, I'm going to follow the rhythm, I'm going to follow the correct notes, and I'm going to play through this many times. And again. And it's through those repetitions and the focusing on how things feel in the hand that I'm really going to get this into my muscle memory. Now, when you're focusing on muscle memory, really it's all about repetitions. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in the bonus tip that I give later in the tutorial, but you want to be doing a high number of repetitions with the same notes over and over again. So you really want to be focusing on accuracy, even if that means you're playing really, really slowly. It's much better to play slowly and get it correct many times in a row than to try to rush through it and make little mistakes here and there, because that's going to confuse your brain. So with muscle memory, we want those accurate repetitions, and we want to focus on how things feel in our hands, not just think about individual notes. The second type of piano memory that we're going to talk about so that you can 10x your memory is your aural memory. In other words, how you hear things. Now, when you're trying to strengthen your aural memory, in other words, you're trying to strengthen your ear, a great way to do that is to actually sing along with your music. So I'm going to take the right hand and the left hand at the same time. I'm going to go nice and slow, and I'm going to sing with the right hand, with the melody. Bum, 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 ba, da, 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 bum, 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 bum. Now, it doesn't actually matter if you're hitting the pitches, okay? It doesn't matter. It actually matters that you're able to like predict the rhythm. You're able to predict what is coming next and hear it in your mind. So as you do this practice, it doesn't matter if you can sing, okay? It doesn't matter. It matters that you're following along, and in your brain, you're predicting what's about to happen. So let's do it again and sing along with me, even if you don't like your singing voice. Bum, bum, ba, 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 da, 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 I have a feel for it. I know the rhythm. I internally can hear what it's supposed to sound like. And you're going to find when you do this practice method in certain parts of your music, it will be easy, right? Likely in the very beginning, like what we're doing here with the Wild Rider, it's going to be very, very easy. However, if we were to go to a different place in the piece, let's say the B section that starts down here, where now the melody is in the left hand, and you've practiced this section a lot less, the chances of you being able to sing that, if you haven't practiced it as much, are gonna be a lot more slim. Okay, and so don't be surprised when you're practicing if there's certain sections of your music that you know really well and it's easy to sing, and there's certain sections where you can't sing along. That's where the work needs to be done. That's where you really need to focus on singing, because you're training your AAL memory to get better and better, in other words, to 10x it. The third type of memory that we're going to talk about so you can 10x your piano memory is visual memory. Your visual memory is all about what things look like on the page, also what your hands look like when they're playing and where they are on the geography of the keys. So it's all about everything that you see. And so one of my favorite ways to practice for visual memory is to actually go through your music and split it up into smaller sections. I like to do this by actually drawing numbers in the various measures where the phrases are. So like the first phrase would be labeled as phrase number 1, the second phrase would be labeled as phrase number 2, and so on and so forth. And you're going to practice jumping between these phrases. So I might say, okay, I'm going to start at phrase 1. And then I'm going to interrupt myself. Now I'm going to start at phrase 2. Now I'm going to interrupt myself and I'm going to start at phrase 3. Now by doing this, I'm forcing my eyes to look all around the music and to really know where these sections are within the overall larger context of the piece. I'm also forcing myself to visually look at the keyboard and see where my hands. So that's phrase 1. Phrase 2 is the same. But phrase 3, I have to come down here to this part of the keys. And I want my eyes to know exactly what that looks like on the keys and also on the page. So you're splitting your music up into phrases and then you're practicing jumping around to the different phrases. This actually also strengthens all of the other types of memory in addition to your visual memory, but it's really, really good for visual memory. One other thing that you can do for visual memory is to turn on a recording of the piece and actually follow along with the music. So you're going to be listening and actually tracking with your eye as the music plays and follow along and see if you can do that without getting lost. And that's also going to strengthen your visual memory. The fourth type of piano memory that is probably the most important in 10xing your piano memory is called cognitive memory. We're going to talk more about it, but if you are getting value out of this video, if you've learned something new or you're going to take something away that you're going to apply in your practice, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel because I release new content all the time and it's really, really helpful content. And share this video with a friend who you think might also want to 10x their piano memory. And if you're not already in my free Facebook community,
get over there.
We do challenges, live events. I release content in the community that isn't here on the YouTube channel. It's such an encouraging and supportive environment of piano players, and you don't want to miss it. So get your booty in that Facebook group. I'll link it in the description below. Now, the good news is cognitive memory is actually a culmination of all of the other types of memory, and there are some things that you can do to strengthen it. So let's look at that first phrase again like we did before. If I am trying to strengthen my cognitive memory, basically what I want to do is try to understand this as deeply as possible. I had a teacher that used to say, if you could take a blank sheet of manuscript paper and write out the entire piece, you have achieved 100% cognitive memory. So you want to know this so well in your brain that you know exactly what's happening everywhere in the piece. So a great way to do that is to look at the piece and analyze it to the best of your ability. So if you know music theory, you can look and you can say, okay, this whole first measure is actually just an A minor chord. It's a broken A minor chord, right? That's all it's doing. The whole second measure, still an A minor chord, and then D minor, A minor. Third measure is E major, A minor, E major, A minor, E major. Now, if you know music theory, you might know that that's the 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord, 5 chord, 1 chord, 5, right? And if that means nothing to you, that's okay. You might analyze it in a way where you're really just looking at, okay, I can see that I'm doing this chord over and over and over again. And then I move a little bit, and then I come back to this chord. Then I do that same figure of like 1, 3, and 5 down here on the E, and I actually do the same thing where I move here and then here. So you can see there, I'm not doing a theoretical analysis. I'm really just analyzing the patterns and how it feels. But with cognitive memory, it's essentially like you want to dig through all the layers, okay? You want to get to know this like it is the back of your own hand, and you want to make sure that you know everything that's happening. So I recommend looking at the left hand alone, then the right hand alone, and then looking at them together. And you're essentially trying to pick out any pattern, anything from theory that you recognize, anything that helps your brain cognitively know what is happening during this section of music. Let's dive into your bonus tip. So piano memory 10x's when you start to do something the same exact way over and over again. And in the context of your piano practice and of trying to 10x your memory, this means that you need to play many repetitions of things very accurately. Because when you're playing accurately, you're doing it exactly the same over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter which type of memory you're trying to strengthen, or if you're working to strengthen all of them so that you can really 10x your piano memory overall, the accuracy and a high number of repetitions is key. Now, I'm going to be talking a lot more about this in an upcoming free event that I'm doing in June. I wasn't going to do this. I actually told everybody I wasn't going to do this till the fall because that was the original plan, but I've gotten so many requests for it. So I'm going to run Piano Practice Lab in June. This is a free 4-day event where you and I hang out in Zoom and I help you design a weekly practice routine that gets you that consistent accuracy so that you can move beyond the notes to confident musical expression. It is a free event, but you want to make sure that you reserve your seat right now because the Zoom room will fill up and the seats will max out. You can reserve your free seat for Piano Practice Lab right here on the end screen, and I'm also going to link another video where I go into even more details about the different types of memory and the different strategies you can use to strengthen them. You can catch those on the end screen as well. Happy practicing.